Shedeur Sanders stood on the sideline all summer, watching others take the first-team reps he never received. A fifth-round pick without the pedigree of early-round investment, Sanders was relegated to backup duties with no real opportunity to show what he could do until he was unexpectedly thrown into the fire against the Steelers. What followed wasn't just a test of skill. It was a battle against a system that routinely sidelines promising rookies. Sanders' story exposes how preparation gaps aren't always about readiness. They're about hierarchy, and he had to rise above it fast.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
His performance wasn't perfect, but it was powerful. Despite the absence of practice reps with the starters, Sanders delivered 209 yards and a touchdown, revealing a poise few expected. What truly stood out was how he processed the moment. Calm, clear, and grounded in faith. By visualizing each scenario before stepping on the field, and refusing to let bitterness define his response, Sanders showed a champion's mindset. He didn't complain, he competed. That foundation of faith, preparation, and leadership may have just signaled the beginning of a transformational NFL career. You just got the call. You're walking into your first NFL start. The stadium's roaring. The stakes are brutal, and the pressure? It's on your shoulders. But here's the catch. Nobody gave you first-team reps all summer. No chemistry with the starters. No rhythm. No cushion to fall back on. You're supposed to fail. You were set up to fail. And somehow, you still rise. That's the story of Shedeur Sanders. The rookie quarterback out of Colorado, son of NFL legend Deion Sanders, just stepped into his first pro start for the Cleveland Browns. And what followed wasn't just a football game. It was a statement. A quiet, grounded, but powerful dismantling of everything the NFL system expects from a fifth-round pick. And it all started with a heartbreaking admission. Shedeur was never given a real chance to prepare. In a candid post-game message, Shedeur revealed the brutal truth. He didn't get any first-team reps during training camp. Not one. The coaches had him riding the bench during preseason, buried behind the vets, running scout team, barely even brushing shoulders with the starters. Then, when the Browns needed someone under center against the Steelers, arguably one of the nastiest defenses in the league, he was thrown straight into the fire. No warning. No rhythm. Just, here, go win. And he almost did. Let's not sugarcoat it. The NFL isn't known for handing out opportunities fairly, especially not to rookies, and especially not to mid-round picks like Shedeur. The league runs on predictability, veteran favoritism, and a system that often prioritizes safe over potential. Shedeur's story is a textbook case of that system in motion. It was never about whether he could play. It was about whether he was allowed to. And the answer until now was no. But here's where it gets good, because Shedeur didn't respond with bitterness. He didn't spiral. He didn't clap back on social media. He didn't throw his coaches under the bus. Instead, he stood in front of the media and told the truth with quiet confidence. He admitted the lack of preparation. He acknowledged the imbalance. And then he owned his moment anyway. Against the Steelers, Shedeur threw for 209 yards, logged a touchdown, and had one interception. Those numbers? Solid. But it wasn't just about stats. It was about composure. He showed mental clarity in the pocket. He read defenses. He adapted on the fly. That's not something you do on accident. That's the result of elite-level mental preparation. Something Shedeur credits to his visualization work. He explained that he mentally played the game all week in his head, studied film, imagined every snap, predicted coverages before they unfolded. When he got on the field, it wasn't new. It was familiar. The reps may not have come physically, but mentally, he was already ahead of the curve. That's not rookie behavior. That's leader behavior. And what makes it even more remarkable, he had to suppress himself during the entire offseason just to fit into the role they gave him. He knew he had the talent. He knew he could lead. But in the NFL, rookies are often expected to keep their heads down. No flash, no personality, no swagger. Shedeur had to mute parts of who he was to even be seen as professional enough to hold a clipboard. And yet, when the time came, his personality showed up where it mattered most, on the field. Calm, focused, tactical. He credited his faith in God as his foundation, saying that his peace comes from knowing he's walking the path he's supposed to. That kind of mental grounding, that's rare, and it matters, because in a league that thrives on chaos and ego, Shedeur is walking proof that poise and preparation still mean something. He's not here to throw fits or beg for attention. He's here to win. And even when the system stacked the deck against him, he refused to play the victim. But don't get it twisted. He noticed what was happening. Shedeur called it what it was. A system that doesn't always invest in developing its rookies. A culture where guys are expected to sink or swim with no life vest. And yet, he wasn't bitter, he was honest. That honesty might be the most dangerous part for the league, because it cuts through the PR gloss and exposes what's really going on behind the curtain. Let's be real. Most rookie quarterbacks would have crumbled under these circumstances. No first-team reps, no preseason rhythm, thrown into a critical division matchup against a playoff-level defense. That's a recipe for disaster. But Shedeur, he didn't flinch, and his teammates felt that. Shedeur gave credit to the offensive line, the coaching staff, and his fellow rookies. He's building chemistry, even while the organization itself barely gave him a chance to start with. He's not just playing quarterback, he's leading, and the team is responding. What we're seeing here is the beginning of something, a mindset that can't be faked, a humility that doesn't come off as weakness, but as strength. For someone born into football royalty, Shedeur could have taken the entitled route, but he didn't. He's grateful, he's grounded, and maybe most importantly, he's ready, because this wasn't just a fluke performance. This was one of those, he didn't embarrass himself. Games. This was a controlled, competent, and confident showing under brutally unfair circumstances. And it raises a question that no one in the Browns front office probably wants to answer. Why wasn't he getting reps earlier? Is it fear of disrupting the depth chart? Is it old school thinking about how rookies should earn everything the hard way? Or is it just the NFL doing what it's always done, prioritizing predictability over potential? Whatever the reason, Shedeur's performance cracked that system open, even just a little, because now the fans have seen it, the locker room's seen it, the media's seen it. The excuses don't hold up anymore. He's not asking for a crown. He's just asking for a fair shot. And let's be clear, he's not there yet. One solid start doesn't make a career. But what Shedeur showed was foundation. The mental discipline, the emotional intelligence, the football IQ, all the stuff you can't teach if it's not already in someone. He has it. Now it's just a matter of whether the organization gives him room to grow or sticks to the same tired playbook. And maybe, just maybe, this debut forces a change. Not just for Shedeur, but for every mid-round rookie who gets overlooked because the system favors the familiar. Because what Shedeur did on that field, that was a masterclass in making the most of your moment, in staying ready when nobody expected you to be, in proving that leadership isn't about hype, it's about consistency. It's about faith, not just spiritual, but faith in yourself, even when the system doesn't back you. So if you're rooting for underdogs, if you believe in doing the work when no one's watching, if you're tired of seeing talented players held back because they don't fit the mold, Shedeur Sanders just became your guy. And this is just the beginning. If you want to see how far he goes, stick around. Hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. Because if Shedeur keeps this up, we're all going to be talking about the day he went from backup to breakout star. Let's talk about what this really means for Shedeur Sanders, for the Cleveland Browns, and for the NFL as a whole. Because Shedeur didn't just show up for himself, whether he intended to or not. He held up a mirror to an entire system that routinely sidelines talented young players, quietly letting them rot behind the curtain, while the spotlight stays glued to safe options. Veterans who've plateaued. Journeymen who know the playbook, but not how to win. It's the NFL's comfort zone. Ride with who you know, not who might grow. And if we're being honest, this isn't even a rookie struggle thing. It's a culture thing. Development in the NFL isn't about nurturing potential. It's about who's already packaged and ready to perform right now. If you're not that guy on day one, you're just depth. But Shedeur's debut defied that logic. It was a soft-spoken rebellion against a machine that's operated this way for decades. And no, he didn't walk off the field with a win, but he walked off with something arguably more powerful: credibility. He didn't need the game to slow down. He made it slow down. He operated with a level of composure that screamed, "I've done this before," even though, in NFL terms, he hadn't. And that makes the lack of summer reps even more infuriating. This wasn't a developmental quarterback flailing under pressure. This wasn't someone drowning in the playbook. This was a guy playing with instincts that looked seasoned. So what would that have looked like if he had been given time with the starters? If he'd been able to build chemistry with his wideouts? If he'd had actual reps to make mistakes in a safe space before being tossed into one of the most hostile defenses in the league? You start to wonder, was the NFL system trying to protect him or keep him invisible? Because here's the truth. Teams don't like disruptions. They don't like when the backup starts looking better than the backup should. The second a young guy starts making noise, it puts pressure on the coaching staff, on the front office, on the entire narrative they built about how this team is built to win now. But guess what? Pressure is exactly what Shedeur just proved he can handle. And while he was out there handling business, he still found time to show leadership. He wasn't barking at his O-line. He wasn't throwing shade at the coaching staff. He was composed, professional, still hyping up his guys, still thanking his blockers, still crediting the staff for getting him game ready, even when he clearly wasn't given the tools he needed ahead of time. That's rare. That's valuable. And frankly, that's a franchise QB trait. But you wouldn't know that from the draft boards. You wouldn't know that from the media buzz. You wouldn't even know that from how his own team treated him during camp. Because all summer long, Shedeur was stuck behind the scenes. Reps going to vets. Spotlight going to someone else. He was expected to stay quiet, wait his turn, and blend into the depth chart like furniture. But when the lights came on, he wasn't furniture. He was a foundation. And his faith? That wasn't just a press conference soundbite. It's central to everything about how he operates. He made it clear that his confidence comes from something higher, that in the chaos of the league and the noise of the doubters, he stays grounded because he believes in a purpose beyond football. That's not fluff. That's armor. It's the thing that kept him focused when he wasn't getting reps. The thing that helped him visualize success when no one else was preparing him for it. And that mental work he talked about, visualizing the game in advance, anticipating situations, playing out his head before the first snap, that is what separates rookies who survive from rookies who thrive. Most players need reps to feel rhythm. Shedeur created his own rhythm in his mind. He was mentally rehearsing before he ever touched the field. And when the moment came, he didn't blink. We've seen talented quarterbacks melt under pressure with 10 times more preparation. We've seen guys with way better support crumble under expectations. But Shedeur walked into an impossible setup and turned it into an opportunity. This performance didn't happen in a vacuum. It came despite the lack of reps, despite the lack of spotlight, despite a system that usually eats players like him alive. And that's why it hits harder. Because he wasn't supposed to succeed in this moment. And he knew that. He said that. He knew the deck was stacked. And he still performed. And let's talk about what that does to a locker room. Because players aren't stupid. They see who's grinding in silence. They know who's putting in work when no one's watching. When someone like Shedeur gets thrown in last minute and still delivers, that builds respect. Fast. Suddenly, he's not just a backup who filled in. He's a guy his teammates trust. A guy they want to play for. And that kind of internal momentum, it's hard to manufacture. It either happens naturally or it doesn't happen at all. Right now, Shedeur's got it. So what does the front office do with that? Do they acknowledge that he's earned a bigger role? Do they finally start giving him the reps that were denied all off-season? Or do they try to sweep this under the rug, hope the media cycle moves on, and slide him back into the shadows? Because that will be the test. It's one thing to show up when called. It's another to force a system to change because of your presence. That's what Shedeur is up against now. Not just opposing defenses, but institutional inertia, the tendency of NFL teams to stick to what's comfortable. But that's where we come in, because stories like this, they need to be seen, talked about, remembered, because they mean something. Shedeur's performance was more than just a strong outing. It was a challenge to how teams treat their rookies, a challenge to how we define readiness, a challenge to the idea that humility means silence. He proved that you can keep your head down without giving up your drive, that you can stay respectful without being invisible. He didn't demand first-team reps. He earned them the hard way. And now, the ball's in Cleveland's court. Will they keep building around someone who's already showing leadership and poise? Or will they retreat to what's familiar, hoping no one remembers how close they came to letting a gem gather dust? Let's not forget, this is a player from a high-profile football family. It would have been easy for Shedeur to coast on the Sanders name, to expect the red carpet treatment. But he didn't. He started at the bottom. No complaints. No drama. Just work. And when his moment came, he made the most of it. Not with theatrics, but with calm execution. He played smart football. He kept his team in the game. And he reminded everyone watching that talent doesn't always come packaged with draft hype. Sometimes it shows up when you least expect it, and reminds the entire league why heart and preparation still matter. So, if you're tired of watching potential go to waste, if you're someone who roots for players who don't fit the cookie-cutter mold, if you believe that football is as much about character as it is about stats, then keep your eye on Shedeur Sanders. Because if the Browns don't see what they have, another team eventually will. And when that happens, when the right opportunity finally meets the right preparation, don't be surprised if this overlooked rookie becomes the one leading a franchise into a whole new era. And when it does, we'll remember this game, this message, this moment. One. And now that the curtain's been pulled back, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend Shedeur Sanders was just fine out there. You can't chalk it up to luck or a fluke or the Steelers having an off day. That wasn't luck. That was readiness. That was a quarterback stepping into a chaotic, underprepared situation and handling it better than players who've had months to get ready. Let's call it what it is. Shedeur exposed something, not just about the Browns, but about how the NFL treats quarterbacks who don't come with a first-round tag. There's a built-in assumption. If you're not taken early, you're a project. You're raw. You're not quite ready. You might eventually be something, but not today. Well, he just made eventually look like right now. And it's not just fans who are noticing. You don't have to be a coach to see the difference between someone surviving a start and someone owning one. Shedeur wasn't out there flailing. He was controlled. He was decisive. He looked like someone who belonged, not someone who was just filling in. So why are guys like that still being pushed to the margins? Why is the NFL so slow to adapt when a player like Shedeur checks every box except the ones they've arbitrarily decided matter most? First-round hype? No. Flashy combined numbers? Not his thing. But leadership? Football IQ? Mental toughness? Poise under fire? Check, check, check. Let's be honest. If his last name weren't Sanders, would he even have gotten this start? Would the league have paid attention at all? It's a fair question. But maybe that's what makes his response so satisfying. Because while the name might have gotten the spotlight on him, it was his play that made it impossible to look away. He didn't coast. He didn't act entitled. He stayed quiet, did the work, and waited. And when his shot came, he made sure everyone knew he was more than just a name. And that's what makes this story feel bigger than just football. It's about being overlooked, passed up, underestimated, until you get your one shot. And instead of folding, you flip the script. That's what Shedeur did. Quietly, without theatrics. Just him in a game, proving a point louder than any post-game speech could. And let's not pretend like this is all sunshine moving forward. The road ahead is still full of politics, depth charts, coaching decisions, and organizational baggage. One solid start doesn't make you untouchable. The NFL doesn't crown people off effort alone. But now the pressure isn't just on Shedeur. It's on the Browns. Because they've seen what he can do when they don't give him what he needs. So what happens when they actually do? What happens if he gets the starter reps? The timing with receivers? The full trust of the coaching staff? That's the question. And it's a dangerous one for the status quo. Because if Shedeur gets that shot and keeps building off of it, it challenges the whole structure. It says development doesn't have to mean years of waiting. It says talent can emerge even from outside the top draft slots. It says maybe, just maybe, the system needs to change. And let's not overlook the humility that's driving all of this. This is someone who's been groomed by one of the greatest to ever play the game, and yet he doesn't carry himself with arrogance. He's not trying to cash in on the family brand. He's walking his own path, quietly earning his way, rep by rep, even when those reps weren't actually given to him. That's not just rare. It's almost unheard of. He's not trying to be flashy. He's trying to be effective. And that mindset, that's what builds legacies. Not hype, not noise, just consistency and belief. Faith, even, when everything around you says you're not ready. Shedeur's story is the kind that sticks with you, because it's not just about football. It's about what happens when you keep doing the work behind the scenes, long after people have stopped watching. It's about being told, not yet, but preparing like it's your time anyway. And when that time comes, it's about walking out there, no complaints, and making sure everyone knows they should have believed sooner. If you've ever been in that spot, overlooked, underestimated, doubted, then you know the satisfaction that comes with proving people wrong. And Shedeur didn't do it with a chip on his shoulder. He did it with purpose. So now, all eyes are on what happens next. Because if this is what he can do on short notice, under bad circumstances, against a brutal defense, just imagine what he could become with actual support, real investment, a franchise that believes in him the way he clearly believes in himself. Let's not wait until it's obvious. Let's start paying attention now. And if you're already on board, if you're rooting for Shedeur's rise, hit that like button. Let us know in the comments if you think he's got what it takes to take over long term. And don't forget to subscribe, because you know this isn't the last time we'll be talking about him. Not by a long shot.